Well, welcome, Safina, Womanjika. Good to see you. And thank you for coming to spend time with us today and to share something of your story. Before we talk a little bit deeper about what reconciliation means for you, tell us a little bit about your own heritage and family connections.
Thanks for having me, number one. And apologies that I'm not physically there, but I've got a lot of sick people at the house in our home, so better not to pass it on. But my family, from my father's side, I have Scottish and English heritage. And then from my mum's side, I have Torres Strait Islander and Aboriginal heritage. So I'm one of those wonderful collections and mixes of people who loves and identifies with many cultures and many peoples, but is proud of every element of my heritage. What else can I tell you? I have three beautiful children. Arietta is 13, Samu is 10, and Letty Brooke is 7. I have a wonderful husband who is Brandon Stewart, and we live in the town of Wonthaggi, which is down towards Phillip Island and Inverloch Way, on Bunwarung country.
Excellent.
Is that enough?
That's good.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit more about your own journey into reconciliation and your connections there. How did that happen for you?
I grew up in a very multicultural experience. I was born in New Zealand, Aotearoa, and then I was also raised in the highlands of Papua New Guinea and in the urban centre of Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea. Back and forth to Australia, but very intermingled with lots of friends and families from so many different cultural backgrounds. I think my story with reconciliation actually began with knowing lots of people from so many different cultural backgrounds and starting to learn and engage with the wealth and the richness of each of those cultures. My journey with reconciliation within Australia, within our national story here, in relation to Australia's relationship with its First Peoples, that really began as a young adult. Perhaps firstly when I became a new graduate teacher, when I had young children in front of me asking me why I was so different to all the other teachers that they had experienced. But I think for myself, my true locked-in engagement came from when Auntie Jean Phillips, our wonderful senior Aboriginal Christian leader, actually pinpointed me, took me aside one day when I was 22. We were at the Surrender Gathering up at Belgrave Heights, March. Oh goodness, this would have been 2002. And she took me aside and she looked at me and she said, "We need your mouth." And I wasn't sure whether that was an insult or whether that was a commissioning, but through the very long journey that I've had, I realized that that was actually my commissioning from an Aboriginal and from an Aboriginal Christian and from an Aboriginal Christian elder who has been a part of Christian ministry and Aboriginal Christian ministry and the work of reconciliation for so many more years than I can even imagine. And so I feel that I was called and I took notice when I was in my early 20s. And yet probably it's been in my 30s that I've realized my mantle, come to know my unique space and place in my work of reconciliation, which is very relational, it's very creative, it's very prophetic, and it's very hands-on and local. So I love being, absolutely, like I love being a person of reconciliation. I love being the embodiment of that. And when I see people, they seem to appreciate that it comes with care and it comes with vigor and passion, but an integrity and an honesty. So it's my deep privilege to be in this space, and yet it's really hard work, incredibly exhausting, and repetitive hard work.
Yeah, and you've been involved more recently too in working in schools. Tell us a bit about that journey for you.
I think I've always worked with children. I love their openness. And anyone who has a childlike spirit is so easy to work with because they're teachable. Working with schools professionally, of course, came through having a degree and getting work as a teacher. But combining with reconciliation and my art, working in schools and doing teacher training, connecting with students through my art and telling stories has been such a really powerful way of helping people to see that they have more connection than they realised with this land, with our history, with Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people, and to actually whet an appetite at such a young age with young learners and an intrigue and a fascination, but actually surrounded and completely safe within the realms of respect and honour and dignity, which is, I think, a very good soil to grow reconciliation and to grow heartfelt and lifelong friendship between different people groups, no matter where those people groups originate from.
Yeah.
My work with teachers has been much more of late, where I've connected a lot with school executives, faculty heads and classroom teachers, where I've worked with many to answer their own questions of their place and their role as educators when they're not from an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander heritage, helping them to see and break through some of their resistance or the obstacles of white guilt. Am I allowed to say that? And then to help them progress through to see how they can embed Indigenous perspectives into their curriculum, which starts with, firstly, a deep learning and a deep listening and a humility. That relationship, although it can start from, kind of like an official meeting space, it actually invites people to engage into a deeply relational space where learning about Aboriginal culture, history, stories, perspectives actually becomes transformative in each of those educators' lives, and therefore has to take impact in every move that they make in their career, whether it's in their classroom, in their lesson, or big strategic moves within their school, or whether it actually extends out, and it always does, into their personal life. Working with teachers has been incredibly fulfilling because they're humble learners. Teachers are wonderful, teachable spirits as well, and yet have a powerful impact on so many young people who are the next generation.
And you've done some part-time work with Common Grace
yes.
as well. Yeah.
Common Grace is fantastic. I love working for Common Grace. We have a remarkable team of just enthusiastic, passionate volunteers and employees who are all about Jesus and justice. What I love about Jesus and justice is that it's love in action, and it's where our faith engages with real life, grassroots story. It makes a difference because there's always this encouragement that everyone has a place and a part to play, whether you're young or whether you're old or whether you're anywhere in between. So Common Grace has been a wonderful space to be an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Christian leader because of the deep heart to see change and to make things right and to listen to our First Peoples. So yeah, great privilege.
So there are other dimensions to your life as well as being a mum and a teacher. You're an artist. Tell us a little bit how that has developed and how that integrates with your faith journey.
Art and creativity it's been a gift to me. It's been a gift where I have come through a lot of healing. It's been a space where I've been able to bring my pain prayerfully to our great creator spirit and to lay it all out as a messy canvas. The interesting thing, though, is that in the process of the creating, somehow there's been a clarity and a beauty that has emerged on this canvas. And so art has become a place where I can speak truth, hope stories, personal stories, but also gospel story. Usually not in a very, there's direct ways, and yet there's also these passive ways that we can share our hope in Jesus. And so art has been a soft way to bring my faith, my spirituality, which is completely connected to who I am, my culture, my family, my living on this planet, and my caring for this beautiful creation. It's all completely connected, and yet puzzling together in a way that makes sense to those who listen and see my work. It makes sense through my art. It's been a wonderful vehicle for me to be who I am and to be true to who I am in Jesus.
I know you've done some theological study, and I can still remember that day we went into Whitley College, where they unveiled the panels that you had painted for them of the creation story, and I was very proud of that.
Thank you.
That time, that moment.
Hopefully it's up by now. The first thing when I ask people to look at my art, the first thing I do is be quiet, because we have to give time for people to see and for people to take things in. So what I want you to do is just have a look at this piece of art. It's called Reconciliation Well. You've got the title, so that's a bit of a clue to you. But what I want you to notice, the colours, the symbols, and the layout, and just take it in, and I'll come back to you in a moment. I want to ask you, how do you feel when you see this image? Are you feeling warm, or do you feel cold? Are you feeling safe, or are you feeling threatened? I now want to ask you, is there a question that comes up in your mind? Obviously, you can't ask it to me because we're on Zoom recording right now, but if there was a question that if you could ask me, then what would that be? And just bring that question to the forefront of your mind, because maybe it'll get answered. Maybe it won't. You'll be left wondering. But just bring it to the forefront of your mind so you're actively engaged with this image. Last question. What was the first thing that you saw? And there's no right or wrong answers to any of this. It's just noticing. The first thing that you noticed. Okay, very good. This artwork, it's called Reconciliation Well. You'll notice that there are these concentric rings that follow, almost like a ripple effect. Many of you would have picked that up. Like when you're in a well, there's a circular body of water. You drop a little something into it, and the ripple effect just spreads out. I painted this Reconciliation Well piece because, to me, reconciliation is like water. It spreads, and it feeds, and it nourishes, it fills up, it embodies into people and transforms them. Can you see that very small central oval in the middle? It's got a little bit of turquoise on the outside. It's got the white dots that frame around and then that bigger black line around there. When I painted that one, I was thinking about deep ancient wisdom that goes far beyond our memory of our life, but goes further back than even the generations that we can remember and name. It's a deep ancient wisdom that actually goes right back to the very beginning of time. When I think about deep wisdom, when it has to do with culture or when it has to do with my faith, which is based on the Bible, based on Jesus, based on this great creator spirit who made all things, I think about how that wonderful creator gave knowledge and wisdom that was gold. And now you know why I chose yellow. Golden, precious, valuable, and pure wisdom. That wisdom started from the very heart of Creator. And in this great love, it got shared with us. Spreading out to the next layer of that circle, you can see that there are 4 brown figures. They're people. I didn't want to necessarily make them gender-based, but there are some that look more male than female and more female than male. I chose 4 there. And in this, I'm representing elders from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander heritage. I wanted to place there the fact that we have been made from the land and from the breath of God. I wanted to put in the colour brown because, well, I guess it's associated with clay and soil, but I wanted to also put in their heart, like a crest, an imprint of the Holy Spirit, an imprint of the Creator who had shared wisdom from that great well directly into them through that breath of life that was given at their very beginning makings. I wanted to also show that Aboriginal people have been connected to Creator since time. I always get this word wrong. Immemorial, time forever, and that we have known the truth of this great Creator God in our lives and passed down from generation to generation. Can you then see that those elders have their hands placed on the shoulders of 2 others? Here I wanted to represent that there's a beauty in passing knowledge and wisdom and culture and expressions of life down to the next generation, raising up the next leaders, the next community members, the next parent, the next village maker. Here, as those hands are placed on the shoulders of the next generation, you can see, I hope, that from that central heart piece of the elders, there is a thread of turquoise that goes down their arms into their hands and then spills out into and fills up the next generation. They then have the pulsing heartbeat. They then have the wisdom passed on into their hearts for them to live by and live out in their life. So you can see that through this image, the ripple effect is actually that we are meant to pass on this message, this wisdom, this love and this care that has actually originated directly from the Creator. And in passing it on, we're actually gifting it out and allowing others to be able to live well, live life well, which was the intent. There is a purity about this piece. There's a simplicity actually about this piece. And yet in it, I find it a very nurturing piece where everybody is accepted as enough to be given the beauty and entrusted the depth and the gravity of the wisdom that has come from directly from our great Creator. So you'll notice other things like water, a band of water spreading out around. I painted that because I have witnessed in my life the floodgates of the spirit of life completely passing all expectations of what life-giving, loving, and healing can do to communities. And so although there's this small trickling that happens in and amongst each of us as we pass it on, there's actually this enormous surrounding by the deep well itself, that deep well of love and wisdom that comes from our Creator. So I've used messaging, which is very directly Indigenous. You can see footprints there for the journey of reconciliation. You can see U prints there. Oh, I didn't explain that. The U prints, there's a small U print, there's a large U print. There's 4 of those combined symbols around the central area. That symbol of the U print represents someone coming to sit and be present. When you put your footprint in the sand, when you put your foot in the sand, it leaves a footprint. But when you come and sit with somebody, you actually leave the imprint of where you have been. Your bottom has now connected and formed the shape where your hips and your thighs and your legs have actually been. When you have a smaller one inside of a larger one, that's a symbol of nurturing, similar to a mother holding a child in the lap, or a mentor raising up and teaching, schooling up. I think that's a phrase from my family, but teaching the next generation in safety, in protection, in trust, in deep love and respect and belief for that young one to be able to hold and glean, take on, and then live on with all of the love and lessons that you might bring to them. So there's lots of bits in this piece, and yet there's also a simplicity to it. I wanted to share this piece because I wanted to encourage you all that we're actually all a part of this ministry of reconciliation. Whether you know Aboriginal people or not, whether you engage in the work of reconciliation in a very obvious way or not, I think reconciliation actually starts within each of our hearts. And in 2 Corinthians 5, the passage that talks about reconciliation and being ambassadors of God's reconciliation, that passage actually begins with, we must be, we are beckoned and invited to be reconciled to God through the work of what Jesus has done, the pathway that has been made for us. We need, it's a point of life and death. We actually need it to be broken in relationship with God, our Creator, means death. There is no life in this. There is no abundance in this. To be reconciled means that we can actually live as we were meant to, in abundance, in connection, and pouring out the gifts that have actually been passed on to us, through us, and beyond us. So the work and the ministry of reconciliation is not only for Aboriginal people. It is very much for Aboriginal people, Torres Strait Islander people, non-Aboriginal people, non-Torres Strait Islander people. It's for all of us to be having. And as Christians, as followers of Jesus, it's like a mandate. We're actually, I think the phrase is ambassadors in the passage, but it's like this mandate that is a mantle passed on to us, that's on our shoulders. We can either receive it or we can choose not to receive it. But here's the invitation. If we receive it, if we receive the reconciliation that God has provided for us, where we can be in right relationship with God, if we fill up with that, then actually we have a place and a space and an ability to then pass on healing, hope, love and care to others. And out there, there's a lot of others that are really, really needing so much love, acceptance and belonging. So why wouldn't we want to share it on when it's been the greatest gift of our life? Anyway, I'm not sure what else I need to say, except I love that my God invited me back interrelationship with himself, herself. There's no gender to God. To God. I'm so incredibly grateful. And so my gift back is simply to receive and then to continue the passing on, just like in that image. Keep passing it on, keep passing it on. The great wisdom from our wonderful Creator. And maybe the simplest part of that great wisdom is that we couldn't help ourselves and say, He sent help. Yeah. I don't want to go on waffling.
Okay.
Hopefully it's answered some of the questions that people asked, but yeah.
Well, thank you, Safina. We're deeply grateful for you sharing some of your heart with us, and we hope to be with you, those agents of reconciliation too. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And blessings to everyone there at Ashburton.
Thank you.